What's going on, folks, and welcome to 4th and 16 Sports. I'm your host, EllisTolbert, coming to you live from Proc Studios in Greenville, South Carolina. Hopefully you guys are having a great Wednesday night. I know a lot of stuff's going on in this country. I don't want to talk too much about that. Everybody has the way they feel about it, but hopefully we can bring you guys a little bit of relief, some respite from the year. A lot of stuff's crazy going on. Happy New Year to all of you, by the way. Get in the comment section tonight. We're going to be talking all things college football. As you know, this will be the last episode for the season. We will be taking some time off to continue getting things ready and then starting the football season back up later this year. So thanks for sticking with us. I got my main man, Fax and Childress, on the couch tonight to talk football with me. What's going on, Fax?
You know, still going through a little bit of a struggle after the Clemson loss.
Oh,
but
man, we'll talk about that.
It's okay. I'm excited to, wrap up season 1 of the show, and we've got still some exciting topics to talk about tonight. And future is bright for the Tigers as always. Look forward to next year, so pretty excited.
Oh, yeah. We got a lot of stuff to talk about tonight. There's been so much happening since the last time we've been here. I want you guys to know that we can come here and have a safe space to have some conversation, have fun. Block out all the crazy stuff. Let's come here and just have fun. So get in the comment section. Leave your comments. If you're watching over on YouTube, we'll have your comments popping up on the screen. If you're watching on Facebook, we'll have it in the comment section. Get in and we'll answer some of your questions if you have any. Let's just talk football. And same if you're over on Twitter. Please like the page if you're on Facebook, and please subscribe and hit the notification bell on YouTube so that way we can get more algorithm stuff. You know how YouTube is. It's weird. But let's go ahead and start the show. Again, thanks for sticking with us for so long. We're going to talk about, I'm going to go ahead and get it out there, the blowout. Call it what it is. It was a blowout. Drew, our guy in the back, is an Ohio State fan. I'm going to go ahead and give him his props. Although I don't know that anybody saw this happening. It got blown out. And it was kind of like a redo of the same game last year, like 365 days ago. The same thing happened on the same field to LSU. It's a relatively similar score. That game was 42-25. This one's 49-28. So I don't know what it is about the Sugar Bowl, but I'm going to go ahead and raise my hand and say I don't think Clemson should play in the Sugar Bowl again. Whatever we do, if we need to get to the number 1 spot every year, that way we can choose which bowl to get to, because I don't want to play there anymore.
That stadium in New Orleans has some serious voodoo magic going down, man. I don't want to play in New Orleans ever again.
I can't. We're 0-3 there. All of them have been pretty bad beats. Go back to 2017, losing 24-7 to Alabama. Remember, that was a revenge game, too, because it was all about, Dabo Swinney and Hunter Riffo, he lied. That happened with Tony Brown and the Alabama Crimson Tide. It blew us out, whatever. Then you go to 2019, like I mentioned last year, a game that looked like we were about to win it. Early on, we had the momentum. We were just driving, scoring. It looked great, and then it just fell apart for us. We lost that game 42-25 in the national championship. Then cut to this season, and then get blown out yet again by the Ohio State Buckeyes. There's a lot to talk about in this game. First and foremost, the lead up to this game was very interesting. As we all know, it took about 40 years for Ohio State to finally beat Clemson. But what they did it in a resounding fashion. It was a blowout. I'm going to keep saying that word because that's what it was. And, we'll own that. We'll have to hold that until we play Ohio State again. Will we see them next year? I don't know. Are we going to do the same approach where we lost like this and we're going to put the score up in the locker room and in the weight room and get angry about it and push weights and then we see them, we'll blow them out again? I don't know. But does Clemson rebound from something like that 2 years in a row? Yeah. I think while I'm also saying we need to own this, eat your words about they were the 11th ranked team in the country and they were going to be a quick study because they only had 6 games and they got pushed in, blah, blah, blah. Eat your words. On the other side, you really need to go back to the drawing board, look yourself in the face in the mirror, and say, where do we go from here? You're going to be losing 2 of the most generational players that you've had, don, orange, and white. Trevor Lawrence just announced he's gone to the pros. I don't know how I feel about that because he's going to the Jags, but at least it's not the Jets, right? And then Travis Etienne is also gone.
Jags have some money to spend at least. So
they got a lot of money.
They can put some and they've got a lot of picks as well, so they can put some draft picks around them. And Trevor is a Clemson legend, and I think we'll be talking more on that later in the show, who the greatest QB in Clemson history is. We'll bring that up later. But just seriously so grateful to have Trevor and Travis for these past 3 and 4 years, respectively. Brought us another championship in 2018 and got us back to 2 playoffs. So two just absolute legends at their position that will go down in history. And I think Travis has pretty much every single rushing record in the ACC at Clemson for him to possibly break. So he will go down as one of the greatest running backs in college football history, and if not the single greatest running back in Clemson history and ACC history. So just an insanely good career for him. Will be a first-round draft pick in the NFL.
Absolutely, yeah. Hats off to those guys for the great careers. Didn't end the way they would like it to, but that's just football sometimes. We got Morgan Thomas, my good buddy of the Morgan Thomas Show. I implore you to go check that out. He's on top of all things Clemson athletics. He's asking, why does Clemson forget the tight end? Started out looking good and then nothing. And then he also asked, on defense, how in the world can you let an elite team look unprepared? I saw one play where Green was talking to Zanders while the ball was already being snapped. We're going to answer those in succession. Get ready for this, all right? They forget the tight ends because I think sometimes the tight ends may not have developed to the level where you think that they could be a huge impact. That sounds like a double negative because those guys are out there catching passes, running for touchdowns. Again, Davis Allen there was a couple times where Trevor missed him and he was wide open. And then Braden Galloway had a couple of good catches for runs, but overall, the tight end position at Clemson is one of the most difficult positions to play because you not only have to know all of the blocking schemes and pass tags, you also have to be in for routes and blocking as just an H-back position. You don't know where you're going to be designated. Sometimes they'll come out in 12 personnel, bring one of those guys out as a receiver, and then another guy as an H-back. That's why Clemson started doing that with Garrett Williams and Mylon Richard, because those guys were not necessarily receivers. Also, I think Tony gets enamored with the deep ball sometimes and forgets about the middle of the field when they're wide open. They've created plays. You see that little toss fake action to a little dump off to the tight end across the middle. They do that occasionally in games. They do not do that enough, and I think teams have now keyed in on that, so they're taking that away. So why they forget, I don't know. I have to imagine you're going to have Braden Galloway back, going to have Davis Allen back. I don't know what's going to happen with Jalen Lay, although his body size, he's probably going to be more of that Garrett Williams H-back type thing. But you're bringing in Sage Ennis, who has already been there, and in the power hour, he's going to be a great tight end for Clemson. And you're bringing in Jake Brenningstool, the #1 tight end in high school football in 2021. He's the Travis Kelce type. You have to throw the ball to them. When you have more options at the running back position that can catch the ball, the receivers, and then your tight ends, along with the quarterback being able to run, that's when you're good. Facts. You know, when we've seen even Deshaun Watson, Taj Boyd, when you saw those guys being able to run, but you had a tight end, think about he had Dwayne Allen, Brandon Ford. Taj Boyd was killing it. Those tight ends were helping out Watkins and Hopkins and those guys like that. Then you go to Deshaun, he had Jordan Leggett. Well, for Trevor, you've had Braden Galloway. You've had a guy like Davis Allen. Use them more. I don't know. What's your thoughts on it, man?
Well, I'm personally of the belief that Clemson should be using the tight end more. And we actually had a discussion about this before the show, off the air. About 5 minutes before we started up the show, I even brought this up. So whoever brought it up in the comments, great question. I'm asking myself the same thing while I'm watching the game. Clemson needs to utilize the tight end position more. It's just as simple as that. And ever since Jordan Leggett has left, it has been a completely, I would say, borderline ignored position at Clemson. And
yeah,
everyone thought Mylon Richard was going to be the next guy, myself included.
Yeah.
Everyone was like, Mylon Richard's the next Jordan Leggett. He's going to walk in a little bit underwhelming. And a lot of that is due to the fact that he didn't get a ton of targets.
Yeah.
And I think that personally, Braden Galloway is one of the most talented players on the team.
Yeah,
I think he's going to play on Sundays. And the fact that he isn't utilized as much as he should be, I think is just more indicative on what Tony tries to do and what Tony keys in on when he's calling plays. And like you said, I think that Tony forgets there's an intermediate game to be explored at times because you see a lot of slants, you see a lot of bubble screens from Clemson, you see a lot of drag routes, a lot of checkdowns to the running back, and then you'll see them take these shots on the field like you did to Cornell Powell, these shots on the field to Amari Rodgers, and you lose that balance when you can't throw in the intermediate game. So it's just one of those things where I think that the play calling needs to be more balanced, and I think that you need to key in more on the intermediate game because that's more where tight ends make their money. You're not going to get a tight end running 50 yards down the field.
That's right, and I think some of that is due in part to Clemson just being enamored with taking the deep shot. That's what they want. Clemson wants to be explosive. Again, explosive play for Clemson in the passing game is anything 16 yards or more. So I feel like the metric of that, because they go back and they have documents of what the metrics are in this game. How many explosive plays did we have in the running game, passing game? How many dynamic blocks did we have, like pancakes, things like that? They want to have a certain number in a game. Ohio State saw Clemson's number and was like, let's do 10 more than you were doing in the explosive game department. Again, I think some of that, though, is because Mylan Richard, while he was going to be a great guy, was just not that fast. He was not that athletic, but he was a great, big, strong guy that knew how to block. There's a couple plays that Clemson does now that they did not do in that era with Garrett and Mylan or Cannon. It was a lot of that was because of the fact that those guys were not fast enough. It was split flow zone. So the tight end will cross face behind the line. You have a guard pull, and then a running back goes behind the tight end, right? They don't do that because those guys weren't fast enough. There's stories about those guys not being able to hit the hole and get the blocker before Travis Etienne gets the ball. We know how fast he is, right? That's a slow developing play. Now you have those guys that are athletic. I think Clemson goes, well, let's just throw it to the receivers. Let's just throw it to Amari. Let's just throw it to Cornell Powell. There's more that you have to do, and I completely agree with you on the intermediate passing. Let's talk about the defensive question. How can you let an elite defense look unprepared? So I talked about this a little bit. Virginia Tech came out with a plan that has been the bane of Brent Venables' existence for a year now. He's been the coach for going on 10 years of the defensive side of the ball. Everybody knows what's going on. Ryan Day kind of talked about it a little bit. He's known for stealing calls and everything. Yeah, sure. Every defensive coach steals signs. That's what they do. If they're not stealing it in game, they've already watched film on what you do in certain football situations. Virginia Tech came out and did not huddle. They came out, they did not go do any of the hurry up tempo stuff. What they did is, and a lot of people thought that Ohio State was going up tempo. That's not up tempo. That was a variable offense. So what happened was they huddled, ran to the line of scrimmage, called the play, snap the ball. That's what they do. That's not up tempo. That's not trying to go as fast as you can. That's just you don't have the time to get your guys, because we all know this. Drew, go to the main camera. I want to show y'all something. I know everybody that's a Clemson football fan has seen this at least once. All right, the team's out there, quarterback comes out, he goes, then he'll look to the sideline, right? He's looking for the call from his three coordinators, his two quarterback coaches and his coordinator, right? So what's happening if the coordinator's on the field? What's happening, he's getting a play. Then you'll see Jamie Skalski go, right? What he's doing is looking at Brent Venables. Brent Venables doing his little thing, right? Actually, that's a specific call.
Yeah.
All right. What he's doing is getting that play in, and then not only is Jamie Skalski responsible for telling the line, hey, you guys are going to stunt stem, you're going to slant this way, you need to be in three technique shade if you're Tyler Davis. Turn around and talk to Nolan Turner and say, Nolan, you need to get your guys in this coverage because we're comboing. Nolan's got to talk to the rest of the guys. Nolan, hey, Darian Kendrick, you're too close to him. He's going to burn you, because it did happen. Then he's going to talk. He's going to go to the other guys, and they're going to be like, go here, and they're going to be confused. And by that time, team's already snapped the ball. Brent Venables, when he has your game plan and you're taking a while, he's going to eat you alive. When you don't have your game plan and he's quick to it, the team's quick to it. We've seen this with Syracuse 2 years in a row with Eric Dungy. We've seen it this season with Virginia Tech and Braxton Burmeister. We saw it with Ohio State, but they are vastly better at all positions than all those other schools. So we got exposed. It is what it is. I don't know what happened in this game specifically. I do know that the last two major games, and we talked about this off camera, the last two major games that a guy like James Skalski goes out for the same kind of rule, the same penalty, after that point,
game's over.
Game's over.
I think I legitimately texted you when Skalski got ejected, this one's over. And the reason for that is, like you said, you just talked about it in the segment, Skalski is the captain of the defense, and he is the coach on the field. He's a fifth-year senior. He's moving everyone around. He's making sure they're in the right place. And when he just goes out for this stupid targeting penalty, which, by the way, I know a lot of Clemson fans are complaining about the targeting penalty. Personally, I think the rule is stupid as well. But he could have injured himself with the way he made that tackle, leading with the crown of his helmet.
Yeah.
So
and we know why he did it. You're in the game.
He got stuck in no man's land.
And you want to lay a lick on the quarterback.
Yeah, he got stuck in no man's land because he went down with, you could tell that his intention was to get the helmet into the ball, and then Justin Fields turned around to kind of take that blow on his back instead
That's
of to
right.
the chest.
We got Morgan Thomas in the comment section. He says second in a row where Brent's defense ran around for 630 plus. You know, this is the second most in his era since for Florida State in 2012, 667. Virginia Tech didn't even get this many yards. Ohio State left some situations on the field, but for the most part, they capitalized on every drive. They scored almost every drive. You can't have that in a game that had that much buildup, that much hype, that much expectation for a team like Clemson after the performance you just had in the ACC championship game. But we need to talk about that too. You just can't have that, and that was very, very disappointing.
I mean, would it be unfair for me to say that the Clemson defensive backs just straight up need to be better?
Well,
because
yes.
if we want to talk about how Brent's defense is getting thrown all around, he's putting guys in positions where he trusts them in one-on-one coverage. Last year, Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase just took the defensive backs out back, and the same thing happened this year with Olave and Garrett Wilson. Yeah. There's a lot of times where this is just one-on-one coverage, and dudes are blowing their assignments.
Yeah, I got a comment from Ross Luna over on YouTube. Says Travis is fast, but I'm not so sure what he'll look like in the NFL. He's a little overrated. I don't think so. I'm going to backtrack you on that one. So Travis Etienne has been running behind a subpar offensive line for pretty much his entire career at Clemson. He's had one or two teams that were really good. Last year's team had 4 guys that were veterans on it, and one guy, Jackson Carman, who was stepping up. And then this year, he's been running behind a piecemealed offensive line. Travis Etienne made his money by breaking the tackles and yards after contact. That's where he gets his 7.7 and 8.4 yards per carry. That went down to 5.4 this season because of the fact that he's getting hit before he even gets to the line of scrimmage this year. That's not necessarily a Travis Etienne. Now, some of those things, yeah, there's certain situations. I would wager to say Travis Etienne is going to have no problem with big plays and being explosive and getting a lot of touchdowns in the NFL. I don't think that at all. I think the only problem he might have is if you had problems blocking against, say, Chaz Surratt, linebacker from North Carolina last year, who used to be a quarterback. What are you going to do when Von Miller's coming at you? What are you going to do when any of the elite linebackers are coming at you? That's the only thing that I think he's going to maybe have a little bit of issue. But as far as speed, he's going to run a sub 4.4. As far as catching the ball, we saw what he did. He's probably the best all-around running back in the country this year. I know Najee Harris, but
improved in pass.
He improved in pass protection. That would be the only area that I could say he might have an issue in the NFL. I do not think he's overrated, and that's not just the Clemson coming out. He's legitimately one of the best running backs in the country.
Listen,
but good point.
It's more of like if you want to base a running back success in the NFL, it's more fit than it is legitimate talent.
Yep.
Because we saw Jonathan Taylor's having a monster year this year for the Colts. Jonathan Taylor's a great player, and no offense to him, I could have a monster year on the Colts right now.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
That offensive line, and you're exactly right. I'm agreeing with you entirely. If he goes to a team like that, like the Colts that has an elite offensive line, Travis Etienne's going to run for 1,000 yards next year.
Exactly. And, I don't want to throw shots because I know, Ross, you're a Texas A&M fan, and you guys have 2 really, really great running backs for the future in Spiller and Ashane.
Spiller's ridiculous.
But they also had an offensive line that was in the top 3 of offensive lines in the country this year, behind behind Notre Dame and Alabama. So that's a different story. That if Travis Etienne was behind your offensive line or Alabama's offensive line or somebody else's, I would wager he would have 10 yards a carry. But again, let me just preface this by saying I'm not saying that just because of the orange paw. You look at any NFL draft boards, they're going to tell you the same thing.
He's going to be in a first. He's going to be probably the running back 1 taken off the board, I would assume.
Yeah, I think so,
and a first-round pick. And if you're a Clemson fan, you probably want for him to be going to a team with a good offensive line. That's what you need to be rooting for on draft day. Even though I would say maybe if he slipped a little and the Jags could get him early in the second.
I don't know about all that. You know what I think should
reunite
happen?
The Trevor
Since
and
they
Travis?
have two draft picks, I think Trevor Lawrence is going to go there with his new head coach, Urban Meyer, and they need to get Devontae Smith. That would be good.
They would have to move up for that.
No, well, they could. I don't know that Devontae Smith's going to go top 10.
You don't think
I would say top.
You don't think? Okay, but let me.
Because I think they have what are they? They have the 9th pick.
The Jags?
Yeah, so they have 1st and 9th, I think.
I think they would have to move up. Even if they do indeed have the 9th pick, I think they would have to move up because you got to think that the Dolphins, the Bengals, and the Eagles are all in the top 6, and they're all looking wide receiver.
Well, Bengals don't need one. They got a plethora of them. The only guy that they need to replace is AJ, but they did that with T. Higgins.
If AJ so you got Boyd, you got T.
Yeah. Well, you have Boyd, T. You're looking to get rid of John Ross. You still have the kid from Florida State. I can't remember his name. The big receiver who actually did a really good job. His number's 19. They have a pretty good receiving core up there. And then when you factor in Giovanni Bernard at running back, and you still have Mixon, which I think is overrated.
So you don't think that the Bengals would take?
I don't think the Bengals are going to take that.
Do you think they're going to take Penei Sewell?
They need to. You saw what happened to Joe Burrow this year. They need an offensive line. You get that offensive line because the defense at some point was playing a little bit more competitive. You're not going to get a cornerback and change things. But if you get a good a left tackle for that guy, I know they had Corey Glenn at one point. You get a great offensive left tackle for Joe Burrow, he's not going to have some of the same issues that he had before. And I think a guy like Penei Sewell can do that.
So if the Dolphins take Penei for Tua's left tackle of the future, since they traded Tunsil, then could you? Because I think that personally, I've seen from the majority of mocks I've been seeing, and just like my personal opinion, I think the Bengals are going to take Jamar Chase at number 5. That's what I had the consensus.
I think any that could go to the Jacksonville Jaguars. There's some receivers out there that could definitely. Chris Olave is going to be gone. I would take.
Would you consider taking Waddle over Smith?
Yeah. No.
Why?
Because I feel like Waddle, while he does have more ability to play multiple spots. He could be a punt returner for you as well, kick returner. He could play receiver. I don't think he has the route running that Devontae Smith has. And we know that in the NFL, route running trumps everything as far as speed, because we've seen tons of guys like John Ross. We've seen even Jacoby Ford when it comes to his own. We've seen all these guys with speed not be able to work out. It's the guys that are slower that run routes well. DeAndre Hopkins. We saw Stephon Diggs. Michael Thomas is not that fast. Let's talk about.
I mean, you can even go as far as saying T. Higgins.
T. Higgins is only going to run at 4.6 or something like that. Those guys. Jerry Rice is the greatest receiver ever.
Jerry Rice is a top 3 receiver.
He's a top 3 receiver, but he runs like a 4.8.
Yeah.
So I don't think necessarily it matters, and I think that's the reason why Jerry Jeudy was drafted so high too. It was because his route running, and I think Devontae has that. Almost everybody outside of Jamar Chase. So we'll see what happens. I don't know. Maybe you can get him a utility player like Rondale Moore if he comes out. I don't know. I would vote for that. Rashad Bateman. There's a lot of receivers that they could get, but
this is a stacked wide receiver class.
It is. As far as Clemson going forward, the one thing that I want to do is I want to make sure Clemson figures out what's going on, not only in the secondary. I think the secondary as a whole, both Coach Reed and Kahn need to really go back to the drawing board, think about what happens, maybe think about switching some guys in certain positions. If you have a cornerback that's probably better suited to play safety, Mario Goodrich, I'm putting him back there. If you have a cornerback that's in the middle and you don't know where you want to put him, Sheridan Jones, put him at nickelback. If you have a cornerback who's really good all over, put him at safety, and he can even put him at the nickel Sam, Malcolm Green. If you're on the defensive line, I think Coach Bates is doing a fantastic job with the tackles. Hall, and I'm not calling the coaches out, but I think Coach Hall needs a little bit more work with the ends. The tackles are going to be fine. We know what we've got there with Brzee. We've got Davis, Pinckney, and Williams are going something we'll talk about. But you still have Trey Williams, still have DeMonte Capehart. You're bringing in Peyton Page, who was going to be an earth mover. I think we're good at the tackle spot, right? You still have Rook. You still have Ruben. The ends.
You got Miles.
You got Miles Murphy, but he's a true freshman. You relied on him, and that isn't in and of itself is an issue.
Yeah, to his credit, he balled out.
He balled out better than guys like KJ Henry, who's been in the system for 3 years. Xavier Thomas, who
even knows?
Fluid. I don't know. Then you also have Justin Mascall, who doesn't necessarily look like he progressed. He didn't regress, but he didn't progress. So I think we really need to look at that defensive line, because when Clemson has been elite, especially defensively,
they have an elite defensive line.
The D-line. That helps out the linebackers. I don't know we're going to get Jamie Skalski back. Everybody keeps going, oh, he looks angry. He might come back. I don't know that we do. He was already a fifth-year senior. You're going to get Balin back. And then Mike Jones is another one of those guys that
I think Mike Jones takes the leap to be the best player on the defense.
He's going to have to be.
Because he has to step into that role. And we saw a lot of what he could do this year.
Yep.
He got hurt at one point, but in the snaps that we got him fully healthy and engaged within the flow of the defense, when the defense, I feel like, hit its peak in the middle of the season, Mike Jones was the best player on the field at times, and you saw what he could do. He's so athletic, and he was all over the field.
Yep. Like I said, I think they'll be fine. And then on the offensive side of the ball, Dabo really has to have a conversation with Coach Robbie Caldwell. He does. And I'm not calling out Robbie Caldwell. What I'm saying is Clemson has gotten by without having a top 10 offensive line for so long. But at some point, that's going to catch up with you, because if you don't have both sides of the ball being elite, we saw this in this game. We saw it last year.
Because, I mean, you look at Trevor Ball, he threw for 400 yards.
Yeah, and we still got blew out.
He threw for 400 yards. We got blown out. And he fumbled the ball 3 times. The one that got recovered.
Yeah, that was come on, man. He had to handle the ball. But you know what? I'm going to give that to Ohio State because of the football move with Justin Ross. I'm going to give that to them, okay? Because even we've talked about this on the show. That was a fumble. But it is, I digress again. Things will be fine. I think they'll work it out. Again,
there's too much talent on the O-line for it to be that bad.
That's right. That's exactly what I'm getting at.
And that's indicative of coaching.
You're getting top 4-star guys, 5-star guys, and Tristan Lee just showed up. You already had a really nice offensive line class. You're only looking to take 4 guys. You got 5. Or 3 guys. You got 4 now. The talent is there. I know we like to cross-train guys, but we really need to get guys in positions where they are the most experienced. Mcfadden, in my opinion, might have been the best player along the offensive line this year. Jordan Mcfadden, who was a redshirt freshman last year, steps in and ends up being the best over Carmen. I feel like Carmen just kind of did the Mitch Hyatt thing where first year is like, dang. Second year is kind of like, all right. And third year is like, all right, man, you're supposed to be a top player. What's going on here, right? So I'm concerned with that, and he's got to get that.
I feel like Brockhurst got significantly worse as the season went on.
I feel like mental mistakes is Brockhurst's problem. Yeah. He's one of those guys that has the motor that's going all the time.
I love him I love him for the effort he gives, and you can tell on every play that he wants it. But I think he had 2 false starts in the national title game.
Yeah, he did. He did. One was a critical one, a crucial one that made Clemson end up punting.
Also, can we talk about how midfield?
Oh, my God. I don't even know.
Midfield, 4th and 2, down 14. No. We come out and punt and give up a touchdown.
And for everybody saying, giving crap to a guy like Brendan Streeter, Tony Elliott would have done the same thing. The only problem I'm concerned with is that Dabo signed off on that.
I don't think that was Streeter. I really don't think that was Streeter, knowing some of Dabo's tendencies.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Man. Nightmare of a game.
We're moving on rearview mirror. Again, Clemson's got to rebuild, but I think reload.
We got Georgia in like 6 months.
Are they going to be our sacrificial lamb, or are they going to come into Death Valley and make us go, well, here's the start of 2021. We really need to step it up, and I think that they will. Thanks for joining us in the comment section. Please get your comments in. We'll talk more about it. I want to talk about something that Ross Luna said over on YouTube. He is our resident A&M fan. He said A&M looked bad in their game. No, they didn't.
They won.
They won by a lot at the end. Let's talk about the ACC. Well, I kind of talked about this earlier. I kind of alluded to this. Clemson gets blown out. Notre Dame gets blown out, because everybody knew that Notre Dame was going to get blown out. But
it's not a good look.
The only team in the ACC who had a fighting chance, I want to say NC State had a chance.
All right, can we talk about how Wake blew like a 21-point lead
because of 3 interceptions
in the matter of like 8 minutes?
Yep.
What were they even doing? They ended up getting almost blown out by Wisconsin.
I don't know. Look, and I'm going to make a joke here that you would appreciate, and just know I'm doing it from my heart, and I love you. If Doug Peterson pulled Jalen Hurts for Nate Sudfeld, then why did Dave Clawson not pull Sam Hartman in the game? You had thrown 2 interceptions in this game, and you had a fighting chance, and you keep him in. You're going to lose because he's going to keep throwing interceptions. I don't understand. I think I will give Miami a pass.
They actually didn't look that bad.
And De'Aaron King went out, did not come back.
And they fought back.
And you had N'Kosi Perry.
Listen, Miami was down 21-0. They could have folded, and they did not fold.
I'll give them credit. They still ended up losing. North Carolina, don't know what happened at the end. The wheels fell off.
I thought they were going to win.
I did too. They had a chance to do it, but Texas A&M showed you.
I think Texas A&M ended up covering.
They did by 2 scores. They won by 2 scores. So I think at that end, we got to talk about the ACC. Maybe while all we talked about the laughing part about the ACC getting 2 teams in the playoffs, both teams got blown out. And it seems like everything's status quo. We make all this jokes about the ACC, and everybody makes jokes about the ACC being bad. And it's really a bad year when all your teams lose, and Clemson, your breadwinner, gets blown out by a team who only played 6 games. It is what it is. So
Swafford cannot be happy.
It is what it is. Let's talk about something else. I'm going to get your opinion. And, folks, if you're out there watching, let me know yours in the comment section, too. How do we feel about Steve Sarkisian getting the head coaching job at Texas?
I think that's a good
Plus
hire.
or minus?
I think that's a good hire for Texas.
Well, Texas fans don't think so. And let me tell you about Texas fans. They don't like anybody.
They don't like anyone.
Unless it was Urban Meyer or Nick Saban himself, they don't like anybody. And this is kind of the reasons why they've been in this whole situation. Now, the coaches that left to go to Texas, it's kind of on them too. You talk about a Charlie Strong, who, if he does not leave Louisville, might actually be one of the best coaches out there, because Louisville's on a great winning streak. But I understand the big dollars down in Austin is going to bring you over. Drew just said they should have hired Dabo. No, they would hate Dabo, right? Because remember, that would not work for that culture down, and that would not work, no. But then you had Tom Herman, who comes in because Charlie Strong, the first thing he did when he came to Texas is say, I want to clean house. I want to get rid of all the coaches. I want to get rid of all the players who don't buy into what we have. I don't want any of those guys there, all right? That does not win the fan base over. Then he makes a quarterback, Tyrone Swoops, a tight end. And then you get Tom Herman, who's over there doing his thing at Houston. I'm not going to leave Houston. I'm over here. I got De'Aaron King. I've got, Greg. I got all these great quarterbacks. Kyle Postma. He had Kyle Allen. Then he leaves to go to Texas because that money in Texas enticed him. It's a big story program. Then he goes down there, and now it's been, hey, we're not going to fire him. We want Urban Meyer, but we're not going to fire him. Oh, Urban Meyer doesn't want to come here? Fire him now. They fire Tom Herman. The first person they go get, Steve Sarkisian, says, yes, because of the big dollars.
And, they're back. So why wouldn't he? Texas is back. Why wouldn't he accept the job?
Without Sam. So I don't know what's going to happen.
It'll be a really fun year. And I usually hate watching Texas because their fan base is super toxic. And I just feel like they're consistently the most overhyped team in the country. I'm excited to watch them this year because you're no longer in the Ellinger era and you're no longer in the Tom Herman era. So it could be fun.
I don't think Sam Ellinger was the problem.
I don't think he was the problem. I just didn't enjoy watching him personally. Maybe
no, I agree with that. And yeah, I always had that sense of, even though they beat Oklahoma last season in regular season, that they're not going to beat them again. I just don't ever think of Texas being the team that's going to come in and be like, oh, they're definitely going to win this game. I just don't feel that when I watch Texas football anymore. The glory days of 2008 are gone. But what happens from here now? Do you have Steve Sarkisian? Is he going to bring in a quarterback? He's going to bring in a quarterback and develop him because that's his thing. Now, a lot of people don't like him, too, because of the stuff that went on at USC, which is, I kind of understand. Coach Pat Hayden he was like, well, not Peyton, he wasn't a coach, he was the athletic director. 0 tolerance. You drink one time and you're out. So he ended up going to rehab, and he made it out of rehab. So why are we still going after this guy, right? So he's made amends, went to the Falcons, comes back, goes to Alabama, wins the national championship. He's going the Lane Kiffin route. He's going the Brian Dable route. He's going pretty much everybody that's not named Pete Golding, because Pete Golding's not going to go anywhere, because I don't know anybody wants Pete Golding. He's defensive coordinator. But at this point, I think Steve Sarkisian is going to give you at least the offense that you need to truly compete with Oklahoma, to truly compete with Oklahoma State. And I think it's a good hire. I know a lot of people don't think so, but I think that's a good hire. My question was, who else was you going to get? They're kind of like Florida State, in my opinion. Remember, Florida State fans was like, oh, it's Bob Stoops or nothing. It's Bob Stoops or bust. Bob Stoops was like, I'm not coaching at your school. He even took some time out to help coach Oklahoma this year with Lincoln Riley when he had players out for COVID, but he didn't take the job at Florida State, which is kind of telling. But I think they made a good decision with Steve Sarkisian, and they have to realize that it's not necessarily a rebuild, but you're not elite yet. You need some more work, and you're going to have to start by replacing a quarterback. You got a really good running back in Bijan. He's really good. But outside of that, you're really going to need more work, and that defense is going to need help too. So I don't know about that. How do we feel about the Heisman? Devontae Smith wins it. Trevor Lawrence was second. I know Clemson fans are going to be upset about it. Truth be told, Trevor Lawrence wins the Heisman if he does not miss Boston College and Notre Dame Part 1. He was second in this one. And to me, him being over Kyle Trask means that they understood that Kyle Trask didn't do anything but throw the ball down the field. That's all he did. They did not run the ball at all. Him being over Mac Jones shows me that they valued Devontae Smith catching the ball, giving Mac Jones an option. Trevor Lawrence would have won the Heisman, does he not miss those 2 games. I also think that they had to save face a little bit because you know how much they talked about Trevor Lawrence being the front runner. He's the face of college football, and he doesn't win the Heisman. What? How? Because he misses the game with COVID, something that he didn't have an option for?
Listen, they should have given it to Mac Jones. I personally, people will say that it being a QB.
Ooh, spicy take.
It being a
Why do you say that?
Okay, people are like, oh, it's a QB award. That's terrible. It's great that a wide receiver won it this year. I completely disagree with that take. Quarterback is the hardest position to play in every single sport. You could take any position in any sport. Quarterback is the hardest to play. It is the most valuable position in all sports. You could take the starting quarterback off of the majority of college football teams, and the team immediately gets significantly worse, Clemson included, even though they have a 5-star backup. And I feel like Mac Jones deserves to be praised more than Devontae Smith, because is Devontae Smith putting up those numbers that he puts up this year with Bryce Young? I don't think so. I don't think Bryce Young throws nearly as good of a deep ball as Mac Jones, and I don't think that Bryce Young is nearly as mature to get the ball to Devontae Smith as much as Mac Jones did. So I think that Mac Jones deserves a lot of credit for Alabama's success this year, and that if you're going to give a Heisman to an Alabama player because they probably deserve to have the Heisman winner. Their offense was the best. Their team is the best. I would have given it to Mac Jones over Devontae Smith because his position is more valuable. His stats coincided with what would win a Heisman, and the team was the best. So if you were going to give it to anyone from Alabama, you should have given it to Mac Jones.
Well, I think they were thinking that because of the fact that you also had, you had Najee Harris also on the bill for Heisman as the 6th player. So I felt like they think Mac is just a distributor, which has kind of been outside of Tua Tagovailoa, has been the Alabama quarterback mold, right? It's the guy who gets the ball to those exciting players. For Clemson this season, it was a little bit reverse. It's the exciting player who gets the ball to those players, right? I think that's what they were thinking. They were thinking, okay, Mac Jones, all he has to do is just drop back and throw it up in the air, and Devontae's going to catch it. All he has to do is hand it off to Najee, and he's going to run for 60. He's going to jump over 6'2" guys for Notre Dame. That's the reason why, in my opinion, that's why Devontae Smith won it, because it's kind of like, and in some ways I agree with you. The other way I would say Devontae Smith does own it, kind of, because of the fact that he's one of those rare types that you can double him, it does not matter. You're not going to catch this guy. It's hard to do it. But Trevor Lawrence losing it, to me, and I don't want to be a pessimist, just proves that Clemson is not going to have a Heisman Trophy winning player. I notice I didn't say quarterback, player in the Dabo Swinney era. Because Dabo Swinney does not believe in having your guys pad his stats, even though it looks like it. And let's go back to something here. I want people to understand what we mean by this in a tangible word form. Trevor Lawrence had 403 passing yards against Georgia Tech by the second quarter. You leave the kid in the game, he's throwing for 800 or 900 yards in that game. That alone could have gotten him the Heisman. We already know what happened with Lamar Jackson, won it over Deshaun Watson because he lit up Charlotte, he lit up Syracuse, and he lit up Florida State. Trevor Lawrence didn't have a chance to do that. They take him out. Will Spires got a pass in that game. So that just tells you, if Trevor Lawrence can't get it, who's been the face of college football, the reason why we had college football this season anyway, because we want to play, and he had his face out there, and he risked it all to play. And then you also had Deshaun Watson, who showed you 2 years in a row that he was the best player in college football, came up third in the first time, which Christian McCaffrey did really good. I'll give you that. I felt like maybe it should have been Deshaun Watson, Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry. But the second year, when it was apparent, and he even won the head-to-head against the eventual Heisman winner, Clemson ain't winning no Heisman under Dabo. It ain't happening.
It's not. I said this before the year. In my opinion, it's more disgusting to me that Deshaun never won than Trevor because, I mean, we can just go ahead and segue this into that. I think now that both of their careers are said and done, I think Deshaun Watson is still the best Clemson player ever.
Yeah.
And I think he's still the best Clemson quarterback ever. I know that Trevor might have some of the winning stats on Deshaun, and I think that's more of a team statistic. I don't think you can just throw the win percentage that the team had with him at the QB at the helm, and that doesn't provide the context. Trevor had significantly more talent, in my opinion, but
yes. Okay, so you said something that I wanted to make sure we relayed to people. If we're talking about which quarterback has the better legs, the better arm, probably the better field vision, and just overall general football, I might say it's just going to be Trevor Lawrence. He's legit that good. Deshaun Watson had something, and even Taj Boyd. A lot of people forget about how good Taj Boyd is. People forget that he still owns the passing yards record at Clemson. He still has the ACC touchdown passing record with 107. He has 11,000 passing yards in his career, 11,000 plus. Deshaun Watson has 168. Trevor Lawrence is like 10,098. There's something about Deshaun Watson that when he was in the game, you knew that he was going to will this team to win. You know he's going to put him on the back.
I can't even describe the allure that he brought to the team because, like, as someone, I was sitting in the building in that 2016 national championship game. I was there in Raymond James Stadium, and when he got the ball back with 2 minutes, I just knew, man. I just knew that there was no way Deshaun was going to let us down, and I will still forever say that Deshaun never let the team down once. There was never a performance, and I'm not saying Trevor did, but there was never a performance.
Yeah, I don't feel like he let him down.
There was ever a performance I could point to and say, if Deshaun plays better in this game, I think we win it instead of lose it. He took, let's see, did he take 3 losses in his Clemson career? Yeah. He lost to
There's one game that I will say, to be fair, we're going to be fair about all of this. Deshaun Watson does not throw the interception against Pitt.
Okay, well, yeah.
They win the game.
But you also have to take into context, he threw 600 yards and 5 touchdowns in that game.
That's true.
So if you want to go off of box score
you're going to have an
stats,
interception in the game. Yeah.
You're going to have an interception in the game. Also, maybe if the defense doesn't give up 48 to freaking Pitt, they would have won.
That's right. Well, I'll tell you some things, too. I think some things, 2 different things kind of jump out at me when we hear this. One, Trevor Lawrence was probably more, even though he had that little shaky start last year with interceptions, starting with 8, like the first 4 games or something like that. His overall total career interceptions with comparable completions and attempts to Deshaun Watson is half of the interceptions to Deshaun Watson. Trevor Lawrence is leaving Clemson with 17 interceptions. Deshaun Watson had 32. Now, Deshaun Watson also had games where he threw the ball 60 times.
I feel like
you're going to throw more interceptions.
The offense was a lot more one-dimensional then because
he did not have Travis Etienne.
There was no Travis Etienne, and I'm not dissing Wayne Gallman. Wayne Gallman isn't Travis Etienne.
Yep.
And you weren't forcing Wayne Gallman into the game because you have this incredible running back here. If Deshaun needed to let it fly, Deshaun was throwing it 55 times in a game with no questions asked, and no one in the fan base had a problem with that, me included.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where I kind of feel like if you're looking at this from a outsider's perspective, Deshaun Watson probably played with a worse team. Let's talk about their best years. 2016, Deshaun Watson won the national championship. I think that was probably the best team. I think the defense in 2015 was definitely better than 2016. But I think that team was his best year. We know 2014, 2015 made it to the championship. 2016 was probably his best season, his last year. Trevor Lawrence's best season was actually his freshman year. And that 2018 team, not only did he have Travis Etienne at his prime, You had the best defensive line in college football. You had some of the best receivers on the outside. You had T. Higgins, who was a first pick of the second round draft. You're going to have Justin Ross, who, if he gets healthy again, could be a first round type guy. You had those two guys and Amari Rodgers. You also had, okay, I don't want to give him that because again, the tight ends, But you also had Travis Etienne. You had a pretty decent offensive line. And like I said, that D-line, unstoppable that year. So, and let's not take away credit from guys like Kendall Joseph, too, the linebacker. Those guys were fantastic. I see Christopher O'Connor says 2014 defense is my favorite defense. Yeah, they were probably the most veteran Latin, but I don't think that they were better than the 2018 team. I think across the board,
team
those
is
players.
the best Clemson team ever. I don't think it's remotely close.
Well, clearly they were the first 15-0
And like that Justin Ross game, listen, if he comes back to Clemson next year,
DJ's got some toys.
Ooh.
God, think about this.
And
DJ, let's talk about this.
I don't want to say anything. I don't want to say anything either. Cornell Powell hasn't said he's leaving yet.
Cornell Powell's leaving. He's gone.
You think he's gone?
He's gone. I think he made
himself some money.
He made himself some money. He showed that he
went ham in the playoff game as well. 8 catches, over 100 yards, 2 tutties.
Amari Rodgers and Cornell Powell are gone. But you're going to have Dakari Collins, a really good receiver. Hopefully Justin Ross. You're going to have Bo Collins, who played at the same high school and was the favorite receiver of DJ Uiagalelei in California, Bellflower, Bosco. You're going to have Troy Stellato, who I'm telling y'all is going to be a breakout player. You're going to have Brandon Spector and 3 years into a system and playing in a position that he now knows how to play. And this little Will Taylor guy, little quarterback from Dutch Fork, do not underestimate him. As a receiver, there is credible sources out there that says this guy might actually be the fastest player on the team next year. So Clemson's going to have some options. I just feel like if we're comparing teams, 2018 was better than 2016, but 2016 was willed by Deshaun Watson. That game was won by Deshaun Watson.
And also, I don't want to say with no Deshaun, there's no Trevor, but with no Deshaun, there's no Trevor.
Well, with no Taj Boyd, there's no Deshaun.
So you got to give credit to the OGs.
You got to give credit to the OGs in it. So I'm going to say we're going to just go ahead and say it. Without Deshaun Watson, we don't have Trevor Lawrence.
Taj, Trevor, and Deshaun are all the GOAT in their own respective ways. Mm-hmm. And they all brought things to the program that have never been seen by any other quarterback.
Well, let's see if DJ Uiagalelei can continue on that tradition.
There's no reason he can't. He's stepping. We already seen what that.
Well, the only thing that I'm concerned with,
he's got to step right in.
Is, and I'm gonna be straight up with y'all about this. If Tyson Pumachan transfers, not good.
What do you mean?
If Tyson Pumachan leaves and transfers to another school, your backup.
It's Hunter Helms.
It's Hunter Helms. You don't have anybody else. You have a couple guys.
Bubba Chandler's coming in.
Bubba, he's not. He's a developmental guy. He's a baseball player that Dabo likes, so he's bringing him in to play football. He's not ready yet. He's going to be a really good quarterback. He has a strong arm, but he's not. He's nowhere near the talent level of DJ or Trevor or Deshaun or anything like that, and I understand that. But at this point, and this is going to segue into something that we've talked about before, but I've never been 100% sure about. What does Dabo do now that the transfer portal has had record highs players leaving? Every player that you can think of, every school has leaving now. I just saw Bailey Hockman's leaving. Drew in the back just gave us some information. Jake Bentley coming back for his 19th season, transfers from South Carolina to Utah. Now he's transferring to South Alabama, where he grew up, where he finished his high school career.
He's doing the whole cert. He went from
going the whole state.
He went all the way up here. Now he's back in Alabama.
He's on a road trip. Everybody's transferring. Chase Bryce transferred to Appalachian State. Shai Wertz, quarterback at Georgia Southern, is probably going to go to Louisville to play receiver. We just had two of our own. We had Jordan Williams, defensive tackle, and Niles Pinckney leave. It makes sense. Again, Trey Williams, you're talking about DeMonte Capehart, Tyler Davis, Brian Brzee, who was a first-team All-ACC type guy, ACC newcomer of the year defensively. And then you also have Peyton Page coming in. After that, you're going to have some other guys coming in. That makes sense, those guys that leave. You're going to have it. It's going to happen. And now that the portal is just kind of like do whatever you want. Everybody gets an extra year to come back. These guys are looking for playing time. It's not a culture thing at Clemson. People aren't leaving Clemson because they just don't want to be at Clemson. They don't want to be under the Dabo culture. They're going because they want that playing time. And you've graduated from Clemson, tip your hat to the kids, and move along. It happens. Those two guys leaving is nowhere near of a problem as if Tyson Pumachan leaves. So does Dabo, and I want your opinions in the comment section, do we think Dabo, and he's already kind of alluded to it, he's like, we might get into the transfer portal. Do you think he actually does it? Because I like Hunter Helms, and I talked about this. I think he should be a scholarship quarterback. In fact, I think he probably does get one this year because hopefully we're going to get a spring, and we'll get to see those guys and their progression and see what's happening. Because, mat drills are going to happen in the next 2 weeks. So those guys are going to be back on the field getting ready for 2021. If he loses Tyson, do you go out and find another quarterback? Now, a lot of the reasons why people talk about transfers and Dabo not really doing it is because that's part of his culture, recruiting kids that he recruited, he vetted them, he's got a relationship with them. It's not one of those things where those guys, because, we've lost a couple of 5-star guys. You had Corey Foreman, who just committed to USC, which is a mistake in my opinion. But he's had guys that were big fish that he was like, And everybody's like, why didn't you get him? And then it turns out like, oh, we lost Tyson Campbell. Remember Tyson Campbell?
Yeah.
Georgia? He's transferring from Georgia now.
I feel bad for Corey. Like, I seriously do. And I think he would have been a really good fit at Clemson.
I don't.
He's a good kid. He's a good kid. And he's going to play for Clay Helton and Graham Harrell. And I just have to shake my head.
I'm sorry. I don't like that. I don't feel sorry for him because he had the opportunity to come to Clemson. Yeah. I know you're coming in with Denhoff and Patterson. But if I'm being honest, you're probably further along ahead than Patterson and Denhoff, and you're probably going to get him in the field much more. If we see what we saw out of this defensive end position for Clemson this last 2 years, you're definitely going to get on the field because Myles Murphy was able to come in and pretty much yank a job from both XT and KJ Henry. Remember, KJ Henry was kind of like, for a while, and KJ Henry or XT on the same side. Then they really flipped it out, and it was like, we'll see what we have. But Myles Murphy made an instant impact from Wake Forest. So you can play. That's the thing with Clemson. But does Dabo actually give himself an opportunity? And there's a lot of players, like I said, a lot of players that are transferring. I'm just, when it comes to transfers, and we've seen this before, the grass is not always greener on the other side. And whether it be for personal reasons, which I completely understand, or it's because, you got homesick or you just want more playing time, just don't be conned into going somewhere because a coach sold you, this dream of you're going to come there and be the star. You're a Clemson guy, so you're going to come in and immediately start. Xavier Kelly went to Arkansas. Really good defense. Did not start for them. Scott Pagano left Clemson. Goes to Oregon. Does not start. Adrian Baker doesn't even get on the field for Oklahoma State. The only guy I can think of, even he didn't even start. Jabril Robinson left Clemson to go up to West Virginia in a year that once he left, we were like, dang, we could have used a guy like that. And I'm not trying to make a propaganda pitch for guys staying because a guy like Albert Huggins was able to stay at Clemson and still get drafted. But I do think Dabo needs to, and I'm not coach and I'm not criticizing the guy, but numbers are numbers. And if you're losing guys and we don't know if COVID's still going to be hanging around this year, you might need to dive into the transfer portal. Is there a player in the country or position that you think we should go after?
That's a loaded question.
Because we're going to have spots all over the offense.
Defensive back?
Ooh. What about linebacker?
Linebacker, defensive back come to mind. Like you said, backup QB.
I don't think he's going to do it, though.
If Justin Ross isn't back, do you look for a wide receiver?
There's so many.
Because if Justin Ross isn't back, you have to think of a realistic scenario in your head where you are going into next year against Georgia and your wide receiver one is Frank Ladson or E.J. Williams.
No, it's Joseph Ngata.
And Joe Ngata. Well,
but he is out all year.
That's your core. It's 3 unproven guys, and, I love all of those guys, and I think they're all going to be great players one day. That's not a world I want to be living in with any of them as my wide receiver one trotting into the year. They're not proven.
Well, what you're saying has some merit to it. And we're not going to keep you guys too much longer. I know it's a late on a Wednesday night. You want to turn up a little bit. Nobody who does. But in all seriousness, what you said has some merit to it because the first things first, No one anticipated Justin Ross having a congenital neck issue and not being able to play this year and having his career on the line, right? Okay, Daniel S., we'll get to this. He brings up a good point. I want to talk to you about this in a second, Fax. But the only reason why Joseph Ngata was going to be the number one guy is because Justin Ross was not there. He was supposed to be your 2, your 5 man, right? Then he gets hurt, and then it's supposed to be Frank Latson out there. Frank Latson is hurt all year, and he also has drop issues. So then you go down to Cornell Powell and Amari Rogers. But to be fair, those guys, one was a senior, one is a fifth-year senior. They've got experience. Both are very talented. We saw this year. Next year would be different, though, because you're going in with guys. One guy who was a true freshman didn't play a whole lot because you had T. Higgins and Justin Ross really leading the way. But then the next year, you have these guys who are supposed to step up and be the next guy. You remember, all we heard about his freshman year, Joseph Ngata is going to be the man. He's hurt all year. You don't even see him. He doesn't even play. Frank Latson, issues, doesn't play all year. You would be going this season with Joseph Ngata with no experience, Frank Latson with minimal experience. The guy that would have the most experience would be E.J. Williams and Brennan Spector. How does that work out? So, yes, wide receivers are a thing. But Daniel said something over on YouTube. I want to throw this at you. Eric Gilbert, who was a Clemson guy for the longest, transferred away from LSU. Huh. Also, I would take Eric Gilbert.
I mean, if we're gonna play LSU flameout game, Raheem Jarrett,
he was a Clemson guy.
I mean, if Raheem Jarrett, he caught like 20 passes from Tua's brother this year at Maryland, and pretty much went on Twitter after the season and was like, "I sucked this year."
Yeah, I mean,
that's not encouraging for someone that's going to stay at the program. And you're telling me if Clemson knocked on Raheem Jarrett's door, he's saying no to that?
I would say probably, though, the one thing that I think Clemson would do, just because it's a little bit safe, I feel like they would go after somebody either in the linebacking core, secondary, or they would take an offensive lineman. Man, I truly don't think he's going to go out and search for a backup quarterback in the transfer.
I'll go give a shout-out to the basketball program real quick.
Let's do that.
The basketball program is killing it. They're 9-1.
Let's move this football helmet.
If you're not watching Clemson basketball right now and you're a Tiger fan, you're missing out. Clemson is 9-1, 19th in the country. Big win last night over NC State. And hey, absolutely killing it.
How about this? With a chance to create new tradition. Yep. They go to North Carolina, Chapel Hill, on Saturday. If they make it 2-0, they're going to the championship. Yep. They're going to the championship. I'm going to go ahead and call it now. Clemson will go to the championship. No, never mind. I'm just kidding. But this team is really good, and this is something that we all expected because you're bringing in Hall. You already had Honor now activated. You had Trap still. Sims is stepping up even though he had a very slow start. You've got scores. Your defense is one of the best defenses in the country, keeping people under 70. They're running the court. I do wish they were a little bit better from the floor in their shooting percentage. Free throws?
Better this year than last.
Better this year than last. But I'm super excited about this team because we haven't seen a team look this determined in a long time.
And if you are a Clemson Tiger basketball fan and want to hear us talk more about this, you can check it out on Ellis's podcast.
Yep, it's called the Locked On Clemson Podcast. You can find that wherever you find your podcast for free. We're going to talk Clemson basketball and football 5 days a week. You don't want to miss an episode. We're going to keep you up to date for it. Tomorrow, we're going to be doing a recap of the basketball game. Super excited about that. Again, this basketball team. I know this is a football thing, but we got to give credit to the
basketball team. Is carrying the program right now.
Hey, the soccer team.
The soccer team's number one.
Also really good.
They're number one.
Number one.
The women's soccer team's good too.
I'm telling you.
The baseball team's good.
I'm telling you.
Even though Clemson lost in football, got some good things going on in other programs.
Look, I just want to go ahead and say that you're not going to win if you're a Clemson fan. Especially if you're a new Clemson fan, because I'm not going to hate on people who are Clemson fans. You don't have to have gone to the school and graduated to be a fan. You don't have to have been an IPTAY member. You don't have to have been to every single game. You don't have to know every single stat. But you have to understand that there was a time where Clemson was not very good. You have to understand that a game is played, there's winners and losers. And you're not going to win every single game. Hell, Alabama got blanked by us in the national championship and didn't even get there last year. So sometimes you're not going to get there. Sometimes you're not going to win it. That's just the way it is. But you know what? that doesn't mean Clemson's going anywhere. They're just reloading. They're just getting back into the swagger of what it is to be a Clemson Tiger. And at some point, they're going to explode again, and we're going to see that because I trust the process of Dabo Swinney. We have no control over it. We can sit here and talk about what Clemson's going to do. Hell, Dabo can do that. He's out there campaigning about how it's going to be easy to game plan against Alabama and got his butt handed to him. But that's going to happen sometimes. Think about the 2016 Fiesta Bowl, where we were all laughing at Ohio because we blanked them 31-0 and saw Urban Meyer sitting on the golf cart with his head eating some pizza, all despondent, right? That's going to happen. That's the game of football. But Clemson's got this, and I'm not worried about it. That's just the way the game goes. If you're a Clemson fan and you're feeling heartbroken about it because your Ohio State friends or your Alabama friends are ragging you, and God forbid a South Carolina fan. We had as many losses as they had wins this season. So don't listen to anything a Carolina Gamecock fan says. But you have to take it on the chin if somebody else makes fun of you. Hold the L until you get a chance to redeem it the next year. Maybe we will. Maybe we won't. It is what it is. But with that said, we've come to the end of the show. I want to thank you guys for sticking with me for so long. We were doing this since around this time last year. Thank you guys so much. We will be starting again later in the year. We won't be completely going away. We just won't have a weekly episode. We might come together and have some episodes here and there. I might be doing it from my own office. We'll see what happens. But again, I want to thank everybody here at Pronk Studios, Will Stewart. I want to also thank Mark Childress for allowing me to have the studio, to be here and give you guys content, to have fun with you, have conversations. I enjoyed all of you. Thanks for everyone that came over from Twitter and really supported this. Thanks to all my friends and family that were able to share this page, grow this page to be what it is, and create a little bit of a community. I appreciate each and every one of you. I want to thank my co-host, Fax and Childress, for being here and talking with me for this whole ride. It's been fun with you, buddy. Thank you so much. I also want to give thanks to my main man in the back, the producer, Drew Archer. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate you so much. Drew, come out here. Come on out here, man. Come out here. This is the man who's been getting the shows to you every week and very consistently. He's got his Ohio State garb on. I'm gonna do this for now. Thank you so much for having me on the show, being on our show, man, and doing everything you've done for me. It's been a long ride, and you've been here consistent for me. So thank you so much. And with that said, it's always great to be a Tiger. I don't care about this. I will keep you up to date. Again, if you want to check out the Locked On Clemson podcast, do that now. Go subscribe to it. You can find it wherever you find your podcast. Just look for Locked On Clemson. I'm going to give you content 5 days a week. Also, if you want to follow me on Twitter, that's at EllisTolbert, just my name, EllisTolbert. We'll be continuing conversation about football there. And, again, it's always great to be a Clemson Tiger. I'll catch you guys later when we start up season 2, probably around July, June area. So thanks so much for your support, and I'll see you later.